A broken pencil snaps in half. Papers scatter across a dimly lit classroom. Empty backpacks sit on worn-out desks. "I can't keep doing this alone," whispers a tired voice. In a rundown classroom after sunset, Ms. Ruth Martinez counts crumpled dollar bills from her wallet. Her eyes are heavy, but determination shines through as she scribbles calculations on a notepad. 28 students, 6 without pencils, 12 who haven't eaten lunch in days. The clock strikes 9 p.m. She's still there, surrounded by stacks of ungraded papers, her dinner, a cold sandwich untouched beside her. But someone's watching. Through the coffee shop window across the street, a familiar face notices her dedication. Keanu Reeves, hidden behind dark sunglasses, observes the teacher who spent another late night trying to make ends meet for her students. Sometimes the biggest hearts carry the heaviest burdens. His voice resonates. What happens next will change not just one classroom, but an entire community forever. This isn't just another story about celebrity kindness. This is about hope rising from despair, about one person's dedication inspiring another's generosity, and about how a chance encounter can spark a chain reaction of change. "When did you know?" a student asks off-screen. "Know what?" Keanu responds. "That you were going to save our school?" The answer will leave you speechless. A true story that proves sometimes angels wear black leather jackets and ride motorcycles. The morning bell echoes through the hallways of Lincoln Heights Elementary, but Ms. Ruth Martinez has already been here for 2 hours. Her classroom, room 204, sits on the second floor of a building that's seen better days. Paint peels from the walls and water stains mark the ceiling tiles, but somehow she's transformed the space into something magical. Hand-drawn educational posters cover the cracks in the walls. String lights, bought with her own money, create a warm glow that softens the harsh fluorescent lighting above. On each desk, she's placed a small plant, her way of bringing life into a place that the city seems to have forgotten. "Good morning, Ms. M," calls out Miguel, one of her 5th graders, as he rushes in 20 minutes early. He's wearing the same blue sweater he's worn all week, but his smile never changes. Behind him, his little sister Angela clutches a torn backpack, held together with safety pins. Ruth greets them with warmth that masks her exhaustion. Last night was another late one, 4 hours of grading after her second job at the local diner. But her students never see the weight she carries. To them, she's an endless source of encouragement and stability. "Did you eat breakfast today?" she asks gently, already knowing the answer from their avoiding eyes. Without a word, she pulls 2 granola bars from her desk drawer, part of the stash she maintains with her diner tips. As more students filter in, the morning ritual begins. Ruth watches as they share the few supplies they have. 1 pencil between 2 students, a single calculator passed around the room. These kids come from families doing their best, but in this part of town, best often means choosing between electricity and school supplies. After school, Ruth runs a free tutoring program. She can't bear to send them home where many lack computers or quiet spaces to study. The school administration supports her dedication, but can't offer financial help. Budget cuts have stripped even the basics. Ms. Martinez, Principal Thompson had told her last week, his voice heavy with regret. "We can't keep the lights on after hours much longer. The utility bills." But Ruth wouldn't give up. She'd started paying for the extra hours herself, though her bank account was already running on fumes. These kids needed more than just education. They needed someone to believe in them when the world had turned its back. Today, as she writes math problems on the whiteboard, careful to use the areas where the marker still shows up, she notices Lucia in the back row. The bright 12-year-old is squinting at the board, clearly struggling to see. Another student who needs glasses, but whose family can't afford them. Ruth adds it to her mental list. 5 students needing glasses, 8 without proper winter coats, countless without regular meals at home. The weight of their needs presses down on her shoulders, but she straightens her back and continues teaching. These children deserve every chance at success, and she's determined to give it to them, even if it means skipping her own meals or letting her rent fall behind. Little does she know, as she guides her students through fractions and grammar rules, that fate has something extraordinary in store, a chance encounter that will transform not just her classroom, but the entire school community. The morning sun barely touches the horizon when Ruth pulls into the school parking lot. Her old Honda protests with a worrying rattle. Another repair bill she'll have to postpone. The trunk holds 3 bags from the dollar store. Pencils, notebooks, and granola bars. Purchases that push her account dangerously close to overdraft. Inside her classroom, Ruth arranges the new supplies carefully. She's learned to make everything last, cutting pencils in half, tearing notebook pages into smaller pieces for scratch paper. Each morning brings the same careful calculations, how to stretch resources that never seem enough. The first bell rings and her students shuffle in. Maria is wearing the same dress as yesterday. Now with a fresh coffee stain, she's tried to hide with her sweater. Behind her, Tommy clutches a half-empty backpack, his eyes downcast. Ruth notices his shoes, the holes in the soles covered with cardboard, a temporary fix that won't survive another rainstorm. "All right, everyone, let's start with mathematics," Ruth announces, her voice carrying enthusiasm she's trained herself to maintain. As she distributes worksheets, she spots Jason attempting to hide his empty lunch bag. His father lost his job last month, and breakfast programs only cover so much. During lunch break, Ruth's classroom stays open. Half her students remain, claiming they prefer eating inside, but she knows better. Empty lunch boxes hide empty stomachs. She quietly slides her own lunch, a peanut butter sandwich, onto Jason's desk, claiming she's not hungry. The afternoon brings parent conferences. Mrs. Rodriguez arrives straight from her 3rd shift, still wearing her hospital cleaning uniform. "Miss Martinez, I'm sorry," she begins, her voice trembling. "I can't afford the field trip fee." Ruth cuts her off gently, already reaching for her purse. Another $20 she can't spare, but the smile on her student's face tomorrow will be worth the instant noodles she'll eat all week. Between classes, Ruth overhears whispers in the hallway. 2 of her students, Anna and Peter, planning to drop out and find work. They're only 11, but poverty ages children faster than time. That night, she stays late again, researching scholarship programs, grant opportunities, anything to keep her kids in school. The custodian, Mr. Rodriguez, pokes his head in around 8. "Ms. M, you're still here." His face shows concern. He's seen too many good teachers burn out, crushed under the weight of caring too much. "Just finishing up," she lies. Those stacks of papers still cover her desk. Her phone buzzes, another overdue bill notice. She silences it without looking. The electricity in her apartment can wait. These grade reports can't. As she finally packs up near midnight, Ruth pauses at her classroom door. The moonlight streaming through the windows illuminates the carefully maintained chaos of her world. Walls covered with student artwork, each piece a testament to potential waiting to bloom. A drawing catches her eye, one of Tommy's. It shows their classroom, but instead of the peeling paint and broken blinds, he's drawn it as a palace of learning, with computers, new books, and smiling faces. Her throat tightens. These children dream so big, yet the world seems determined to clip their wings before they can fly. Tomorrow, she'll need to tell them the spring science fair is canceled. She can't afford the materials. Another disappointment in lives already too full of them. Walking to her car, Ruth spots movement in the coffee shop across the street. Through the window, she sees someone watching her, a man in a black jacket, his face partially hidden. For a moment, their eyes meet, and something passes between them, recognition, perhaps, of shared humanity in a world that often feels too cold. She drives home in silence, her mind racing with the day's challenges and tomorrow's worries. The pantry at home is nearly empty, but her students' needs fill every corner of her thoughts. As she falls asleep at her kitchen table, surrounded by lesson plans and unpaid bills, She doesn't know that tomorrow will bring a chance encounter that will change everything. The next morning finds Ruth at the Corner Cup, the small coffee shop across from school. It's her one luxury, a strong cup of coffee before another demanding day. The barista, knowing her usual order, slides a steaming cup across the counter. Ruth pulls out her wallet, counts the change carefully. "I'll get that," a quiet voice says from behind her. She turns, startled, and finds herself face to face with Keanu Reeves. He's dressed simply, black jacket, jeans, a motorcycle helmet tucked under his arm. His presence fills the small coffee shop, though he carries himself with remarkable humility. "Oh, no, I couldn't." Ruth starts to protest, but Keanu's already handed the barista a 20. "Please," he says, "I've been watching you." His voice is gentle, free of judgment. Every night, same classroom, same dedication. "Mind if I ask what keeps you there so late?" Ruth hesitates, celebrity or not. Sharing her student struggles feels like betraying their trust. But something in his eyes, a genuine concern, an understanding of hardship, makes her take a chance. "I teach 5th grade at Lincoln Heights," she begins, gesturing toward the worn building across the street. Her voice catches as she continues. "My kids, they're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But they're fighting battles no child should face." Keanu guides them to a quiet corner table. Ruth finds herself sharing everything: the empty lunch boxes, the shared pencils, the broken dreams. She tells him about Tommy's cardboard-soled shoes, about Maria's recycled dress, about Jason's hidden hunger. "Last week," she says, wiping away an unexpected tear, "one of my brightest students, Anna, told me she's dropping out. Her family needs another income. She's 11. Keanu listens intently, his coffee untouched. When Ruth mentions paying for supplies from her own pocket, his expression shifts subtly. "How many students?" he asks. 28, she responds. "Though more keep coming. We're the only school in the district still accepting mid-year transfers." He nods, processing. "And what would it take," he asks carefully, "to give them everything they need?" Ruth laughs, a sound tinged with both humor and sadness. "Everything? New textbooks, computers, a food program, maybe some basic medical care." She shakes her head. "It's impossible. The district's broke, and I'm barely keeping the lights on after hours as it is." Keanu leans forward, his voice low and determined. "Nothing's impossible. What if money wasn't an issue?" Ruth stares at him, realization dawning. "Mr. Reeves, I couldn't possibly—" "Keanu," he corrects gently. "And yes, you could. These kids deserve a chance. Every child does." Before Ruth can respond, her phone buzzes. A text from Tommy's father. They're being evicted. She closes her eyes, another weight settling on her shoulders. "I should go," she says, standing quickly. "The kids will be arriving soon." Keanu rises too. "Let me help," he says simply. Not as a celebrity, not for attention, just as someone who believes in what you're doing. Ruth looks at him, really looks at him. Behind the famous face, she sees something familiar. The same drive to make a difference that keeps her going every day. "It's not that simple," she protests weakly. "These kids, their families, they need more than just money. They need stability, support, hope." "Then let's give them all of it," Keanu responds. His voice carries no trace of condescension, only quiet determination. One step at a time. As they stand there, the morning sun streaming through the coffee shop windows, Ruth feels something she hasn't experienced in months. Hope. Real, tangible hope. "Come to the school," she says finally. "See for yourself what these kids are capable of, what they're fighting against. Then decide if you still want to help." Keanu checks his watch, then grabs his helmet. "Lead the way," he says, a small smile playing at his corners of his mouth. "I've got time." As they cross the street toward Lincoln Heights Elementary, neither of them realizes they're about to start something that will ripple through the community for years to come. Behind them, the coffee shop patrons begin whispering, phones capturing the moment. But for Ruth and Keanu, the only thing that matters is the group of children starting to gather at the school's entrance, their faces bright with dreams waiting to take flight. Ruth's hand trembles slightly as she unlocks the classroom door. Behind her, Keanu takes in everything: the water-stained ceiling tiles, the carefully patched walls, the worn-out desks arranged in tight clusters to maximize space. His expression remains neutral, but his eyes miss nothing. The first students begin trickling in, stopping short at the doorway when they spot the unexpected visitor. Tommy drops his battered backpack, mouth hanging open. Maria clutches her books tighter to her chest, eyes wide with recognition. For a moment, the room holds its breath. "Good morning, everyone," Ruth says, keeping her voice steady, normal. "We have a guest today who'd like to learn about our class." She turns to Keanu, who's already pulling up a chair to an empty desk, making himself smaller, less intimidating. Jason raises his hand hesitantly. "Are you really?" he starts, then stops embarrassed. Keanu smiles warmly. "I'm just here to learn," he says. "Your teacher tells me you're all doing amazing things." The morning unfolds like a carefully choreographed dance. Ruth teaches her lesson on fractions, trying to ignore the fact that a Hollywood star is taking notes in the back of her classroom. She watches as her students share their few supplies, notices Keanu noticing too. When Lucy squints at the board, shifting positions to see better, his pen moves across his notepad. During the math lesson, Anna, the girl planning to drop out, solves a complex problem on the board. Her explanation is clear, confident, belying the poverty that threatens to cut her education short. Keanu leans forward, engaged. At lunchtime, the truth of their situation becomes impossible to hide. Empty lunch boxes emerge. Ruth reaches for her emergency granola bar stash, but there aren't enough to go around. Without a word, Keanu slips out. 10 minutes later, he returns with bags of sandwiches, fruit, and drinks for everyone. The children's faces light up, but it's more than just food. It's the recognition that someone sees them, truly sees them. After lunch, during art class, Keanu moves from desk to desk, asking questions, learning names, stories. He stops at Tommy's desk, examining the drawing of the dream classroom. "This is really good," he says softly. "Tell me about it." Tommy's words tumble out in a rush. He points to the computers he's drawn, the new books, the science corner. "And here," he says, pointing to a colorful square, "that's a nurse's office. Because Pedro's asthma gets bad sometimes, and we don't have a nurse anymore." Keanu's eyes meet Ruth's across the room. Something passes between them, understanding, determination. As the day progresses, Keanu fills page after page with notes. He records every broken chair, every shared textbook, every dream spoken and unspoken. When Ruth mentions the canceled science fair, his jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. Near the end of the day, while the students are engaged in group reading, Keanu pulls Ruth aside. "I've seen enough," he says quietly. "These kids deserve better. All of them." Ruth nods, throat tight. "They do. But the district—" "Forget the district," Keanu interrupts gently. "I have some calls to make. Tomorrow morning, things start changing." Before Ruth can respond, Anna approaches them, clutching a worn permission slip. "Ms. Martinez," she starts, eyes downcast. "My dad says I can't come back next week. We need the money and—" Keanu kneels down to her eye level. "Anna," he says softly, "what if you had a choice? What if you could stay in school and your family could get help finding better work?" The girl's eyes widen. Ruth feels her heart skip a beat. "I'm not doing this for publicity," Keanu continues, now addressing both of them. "These kids, this school, you're doing something special here. And sometimes all it takes is one person to notice, to care enough to make a difference." That afternoon, as the students file out, something has shifted. There's a lightness in their steps, a spark of hope that wasn't there before. Keanu stands at the door, fist-bumping each child as they leave. He's learned all their names. After the last student leaves, Keanu turns to Ruth. "Tomorrow," he says, "bring me every receipt you have. Every bill, every supply list, every dream project you've had to shelve. We're going to fix this, one step at a time." Ruth starts to protest, but he holds up a hand. "You've been carrying this alone for too long," he says. "Let someone else help shoulder the weight for a while." As they leave the classroom, Ruth notices Tommy's drawing still on Keanu's desk. He's added something to it, his signature, and below it, a single word: soon. The next morning, Ruth arrives at school to find a fleet of trucks parked outside. Workers in uniforms are already unloading boxes, carrying in new furniture, computers still in their packaging. In the parking lot, a medical van has set up shop, mobile health services printed on its side. Principal Thompson stands on the steps, his face a mixture of disbelief and joy. "Ms. Martinez," he calls out, waving a stack of papers. "Have you seen this? Full funding for 3 years. Breakfast and lunch programs, after-school activities, medical care, everything." Ruth watches as more trucks arrive. One carries sports equipment, another filled with books. A tech team is setting up Wi-Fi boosters around the building. Everything happening simultaneously, as if making up for lost time. Inside her classroom, the transformation is even more dramatic. Gone are the wobbling desks and broken chairs. Instead, new furniture fills the room, arranged in collaborative learning spaces. A smart board has replaced the old whiteboard, and on each desk sits a laptop, still wrapped in protective plastic. The students arrive in waves, stopping at the entrance, unsure if they're in the right place. Tommy stands frozen, his drawing clutched in his hand, comparing it to the reality before him. It's better than what he imagined. "Good morning," a familiar voice calls from the back of the room. Keanu steps forward, dressed casually, but carrying an air of quiet satisfaction. Ready to get started? The morning begins with a surprise. Every student receives a backpack filled with supplies. But it's more than just pencils and notebooks. Each pack contains a complete set of essentials: calculators, art supplies, even USB drives for their new computers. Lucy finds a pair of glasses in hers, perfectly matched to her prescription. During lunch, the cafeteria serves hot, nutritious meals. No more empty containers or hidden hunger. Jason takes a second helping, his eyes bright with disbelief. In the corner, a social worker meets quietly with Anna's father, discussing job training programs and stable employment opportunities. The mobile health unit sees students throughout the day. Pedro gets his asthma checked, receives proper medication. Other students get long overdue dental checkups, vaccinations, basic health screenings. Parents begin arriving, drawn by word spreading through the community. After school, Ruth watches as workers install a new science lab. The canceled fair is back on, now with proper equipment and materials. In the library, volunteers stock shelves with thousands of new books, while others set up a computer center for family use. This isn't just about today, Keanu explains, appearing beside her. It's about sustainable change. He shows her the documents. Trust funds established for ongoing maintenance, scholarships for future education, partnerships with local businesses for job training and apprenticeships. The transformation extends beyond physical changes. A counselor's office opens, providing mental health support. Art and music programs launch, giving students new ways to express themselves. Community organizations begin using the school after hours, turning it into a neighborhood hub. By week's end, the change in the students is remarkable. Tommy wears new shoes, his walk straighter, more confident. Maria has several new outfits, donated by local shops. Anna's father starts a job training program, allowing her to stay in school while her family situation improves. But perhaps the most profound change is in their eyes. The weariness has lifted, replaced by something precious: hope. They move through their new environment not as children resigned to limitation, but as students empowered to learn, to dream, to achieve. Ruth finds notes appearing on her desk. Thank you cards from parents, drawings from students, messages of gratitude. One afternoon, she discovers her car has been repaired, a small gesture in the wave of changes, but one that brings tears to her eyes. The ripples will keep spreading, Keanu tells her, watching students play with new sports equipment during recess. These kids just needed a chance. You showed them they matter. I just helped make it visible. The local news catches wind of the story, but Keanu stays in the background. This isn't about publicity, he insists. It's about creating lasting change, about showing one community what's possible when someone chooses to care. 6 months after Keanu's unexpected visit, Lincoln Heights Elementary stands as a beacon of possibility. The morning sun reflects off newly cleaned windows, and the sound of children's laughter echoes through halls that once stood silent and worn. Ms. Martinez's classroom has become a model for innovative teaching. Her students, no longer held back by lack of resources, show remarkable progress. Tommy, once quiet and withdrawn, now leads a robotics team they've established. His latest project, a small robot that helps younger students practice reading, won first place in the regional science fair. Maria discovered a talent for digital art through the new computer lab. Her work hangs in the school gallery, alongside pieces from other students who found their voice through the arts program. She's already talking about graphic design colleges, a dream that would have seemed impossible months ago. Anna, who nearly dropped out, now tutors younger students after school. Her father completed the job training program and secured a stable position at a local tech company. The family moved into a better apartment, and Anna's younger siblings will start school next year, their future suddenly brighter. The changes spread beyond the school walls. Parents attend evening classes in the computer lab, learning new skills, preparing resumes, building better futures. The community health center, initially a temporary solution, became permanent, serving not just students but their families too. Weekly food distributions ensure no child goes hungry, and a clothing exchange program helps families stretch their resources. Ruth notices smaller changes too. Jason no longer hides during lunch. Instead, he leads a cooking club using vegetables from the school's new garden. Lucy, with her proper glasses, discovered a passion for astronomy through their new science program. Even Pedro's asthma attacks decreased after the building's ventilation system was upgraded. One afternoon, while supervising the after-school program, Ruth receives an envelope. Inside, she finds college acceptance letters for 3 of her former students, the first in their families to attend university. Scholarships, arranged through the trust Keanu established, will cover their expenses. Keanu visits occasionally, always quietly, without fanfare. He sits in on classes, plays basketball with the kids during recess, attends science fairs and art shows. The students no longer see him as a celebrity, but as part of their extended family, someone who believed in them when the world didn't. More importantly, his initial investment sparked a movement. Other schools in the district began receiving support from local businesses and community leaders inspired by Lincoln Heights' transformation. The ripple effect touched thousands of lives, creating a model for change that others could follow. Principal Thompson often says the school's real transformation wasn't in the buildings or equipment, but in the restoration of dignity. Children walk taller, dream bigger, reach higher because someone showed them they deserved a chance. Ruth stands at her classroom window, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. The after-school coding club is wrapping up, their excited chatter filling the halls. A stack of college acceptance letters sits on her desk. Every single graduating student received one. The classroom walls tell a story of transformation. Where water stains once marked defeat, student achievements now cover every inch. Science fair trophies gleam in the corner. Art projects showcase boundless creativity, and a wall of fame displays newspaper clippings about their successes. Outside, parents chat while picking up their children from various activities. The parking lot, once empty after hours, now stays full until evening with community programs, adult education classes, and family support services. The school has become the heart of the neighborhood, pumping hope and opportunity through its veins. A motorcycle rumbles in the distance. Ruth smiles, knowing who it is. Keanu parks his bike and walks toward the building, carrying pizza boxes for the coding club. He does this sometimes, shows up unannounced, spends time with the kids, reminds them that magic can happen when people care. As she watches him high-five students and ask about their projects, Ruth remembers that morning in the coffee shop. One conversation, one moment of genuine concern, sparked a revolution of kindness that transformed countless lives. Remember, she whispers to herself, words she now tells her students daily. Change starts with someone brave enough to care. The sun sets on Lincoln Heights Elementary, but inside, dreams continue to rise. In classrooms across America, other teachers work tirelessly, hoping for their own miracle. Sometimes, that miracle wears a black leather jacket and rides a motorcycle. Sometimes, it simply requires one person to notice, to care, to act.